Okay. This year marks the 3.5 decades that Metal Blade has been at the forefront of the scene, releasing more than 1,000 of albums over these 35 years. And today I'm here with the writer and founder of Metal Blade, Brian Slagel. Hello Brian, I'm Tarja, welcome to TrueMetal.it. Now that the book is written and ready to be launched, what are your feelings?
It's interesting. First time doing this, it was a lot of fun, and I'm just excited for everybody to read it. I'm really happy with the way it came out, so hopefully everyone will enjoy it.
Yes, and indeed, I read it in 2 days, and it's a great masterpiece. Each page is full of interesting stuff, important pearls of the history and guidelines for the future. Therefore, my job of picking up the questions was a pretty tough job, also because the time is short. But without going into details, I would like to concentrate on the things around the book and touching only some of the topics. Please tell me, when was the moment you decided to write the book with Mark Ellington?
Well, people have been kind of bugging me to write a book for a while, but I was like, that's something you do when you get really old or something. But we were figuring out what to do for our 35th anniversary. A few people mentioned a book might be a good idea, and the timing kind of seemed right. It would be a good idea to start telling some of these stories before I start forgetting them maybe or something. Yeah. So we just decided to do the book for the 35th anniversary, and then started kind of writing it almost about 2 years ago now, I think.
Okay, good. And by the way, the name of the book, For the Sake of Heaviness, is the song title of Amor Saint. I guess this choice was obvious.
Yeah, coming up with the title for a book is not easy, and I was kind of racking my brain, and that song kind of came to my mind because I think it does kind of capsulize, the story of Metal Blade and certainly my life. And so I thought that was a really great name. And then I had to go to Armored Saint and say, hey, do you mind if I use your song title for the book? And they all said, fine. So I'm like, okay, good. Then we have a title, fine.
Yes, that's great. And then Metallica's Lars Ulrich wrote in his forewords, when you tell the story of Brian Slagel and chart the course of Metal Blade Records, the 3 words that come to my mind are loyalty, consistency, and dependability. How do you respond to his definition?
Well, it was, first of all, incredibly nice of him to even write the foreword, and to say so many kind of words is pretty incredible as well. But look, I certainly hope that that's the case. I think over all these years we definitely have had and worked with a lot of bands we still work with today for a long time. So yeah, I hope that those words are true. I think they are, but. Obviously incredibly nice of him to say that, for sure.
Yes, and in fact, reading the book, it's very clear that you really live what you do. So the passion is your real lifestyle and philosophy. But tell me, was there any moment that you just wanted to give up and change the direction?
Well, I don't know that I ever really wanted to give up necessarily, but there was definitely a couple of moments where I almost had to and had no choice.
Yes.
Certainly the worst one was in the late, the second half of the 80s when vinyl, kind of ceased to be the dominating way that people got music. And, I grew up on vinyl. I loved vinyl. I was the one saying, vinyl's never going to go away. It's not going to happen. Because everybody kept telling me, nope, you better stop making vinyl. You better stop making vinyl. I said, nope, I'm not. I'm not going to listen to what you say because it was never going to go away. And then sure enough, all of the record stores in the United States at one point said, okay, that's it. We're done. We're shipping it all back. And since I didn't listen to anybody, we got all this vinyl back. And I had been owing our distributor a lot of money. And at that point, the company was basically bankrupt, but somehow I was able to piece together some money from some credit cards and things to kind of, keep the company rolling for a couple of months until we get back on our feet. But that was one where I really thought when they told me what had happened that's the end. There's no way to get past this. But after a couple of days, I said, well, we've gone this far. It's no reason to stop now.
Yeah.
So
and anyhow, the vinyls 20 years later, They was very, I mean, useful. I remember.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Listen, how important was the work of the talent scouts? I remember in the book you are telling that very often, always, let's say, you went to gigs looking around the new bands who played there after hard work and a long time they had spent in the rehearsal rooms. While today anyone can record a demo with a simple computer intake or softwares, but is it a bit like losing a bit band spirit because they are not spending so much time together, or what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think we talk a lot about this, obviously, how things have changed and how easy it is to be in a band and become a band. And I think one reason why, look, first of all, there's a lot of great new bands out there, and I'm certainly super excited about that. But it is a little bit different to find those bands and get really good players in a band, because it used to be, usually the better, the really good guitar players, drummers, and bass players kind of all eventually gravitate towards one band. But now, with the ease of making demos, you find you'll have one really good player in the band, and then everybody else is not so good, because anybody can make a demo now, whereas it didn't used to be that easy. So that means that there's a lot more bands than there ever were before, and also that kind of dilutes the talent pool a little bit as well, I think.
Yeah. But you did great job, because it's also true, without having internet and all these communication systems, you just have to go there and see the band live.
Of course.
Yes. And talking about the different metal styles, I think nowadays it's pretty difficult to categorize some bands, also because the new subgenres are born nearly every day. But to your opinion, is it so important today to stamp the bands under specific styles?
Well, for me, I never was really a big fan of, giving some sort of name to a specific scene. I understand why, and I know why that happens, and I don't, it is what it is, but it's all kind of the underlying same thing. It's all metal music, and I think the one thing that stamping it with some sort of a scene does do, it kind of makes it like, oh, well, I like this type of band, so if they're this type of band, I won't like it. And I think it's just better. I mean, look, if it's up to me, I just call it all heavy metal, and it's all one big happy family. But I see how it is, and I know where people, in describing something, it's hard to describe something if you don't put it into some sort of category. So I understand that, but I'd rather it not be that way. And I like the fact that there are some bands that you can't fit into a specific category, like a band like Amon Amarth now. I mean, they started out as a quote-unquote melodic death metal band, but they've come so far from there that, and this happens to everybody. I mean, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, they all started out as speed metal or some thrash metal, speed metal, whatever. And now that's just traditional heavy metal. There is no, you wouldn't call Metallica a speed metal band anymore. So I think bands eventually grow out of whatever scene or thing that they're stuck with at the beginning.
Yes, and that's also good, because the band give the personal touch to the music, so that makes it different.
Yes, absolutely. And the bands that have their own style and sound usually are the most successful ones.
Yes, great. I know, and everybody knows, I think, and that your personal favorite sport has always been ice hockey. And you've had many great opportunities to put it together with metal. Would you like to tell me some of your greatest memories or moments?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the two ones that come to mind. Certainly, one of the first times we ever did that was back in the '80s. There was a player for the Los Angeles Kings named Ken Baumgartner, who was he had a very rugged style, shall we say, and his nickname was Bomber, because Baumgartner Bomber. So we kind of got the idea to wouldn't it be cool if we had him somehow with a bunch of metal guys cover Bomber by Motorhead. And somehow or another, we were able to get to his people and mention the idea to him. He loved it, so we put together a band consisting of guys from Suicidal Tendencies, Harvard Saint, Fates Warning, and did this kind of little single with him kind of singing. And that was a lot of fun, because it kind of merged my two worlds of hockey and metal together. And one of the other great stories was Jaromir Jagr, who, legendary player, second leading scorer of all time in the NHL. When he first came into the league, he was a huge Metallica fan, I found out. And some friends of mine were hockey writers who were working in Pittsburgh, and they wanted to get an interview with him. But he wouldn't do interviews at that point because his English wasn't good, and I think he was very shy.
Yeah.
So they asked me if I could get him Metallica stuff. I said, sure. So apparently they went to him for an interview, and he said, no. So what about we get you Metallica stuff? He said, Metallica? Okay.
He changed the idea.
So they became friends with him, and at some point we tried to get a meeting together between Jagr and the guys from Metallica.
Yeah.
And I was able to make that happen. They were in the studio recording Load, and we went in the studio with Jagr and a couple other guys from the Penguins and met the Metallica guys. And that was for me, that was another one of these crazy nights where, I'm a huge hockey fan, a huge Jagr fan. Obviously, I've been friends with Metallica forever. Yeah. But I couldn't tell who was more excited that night, whether it was the hockey players or the guys from Metallica. I just remember, Hetfield running around the studio going, Jagr signed my hockey stick, Jagr signed my hockey stick. So that was a pretty incredible evening for sure.
That's great. And maybe another time we will do another interview talking about ice hockey. Okay.
Anytime you want, I can talk forever.
I'm here, Brian. Listen, Metal Blade has been involved in almost every movement that has happened in heavy music since 1982. You haven't really followed any mainstream trends, but you've signed the bands that you like, despite their music style or what the other think about them. Is that, the leading guideline of the success of Metal Blade?
Absolutely. I think that's for sure one of the reasons why we've been able to kind of stick around for all this time is, I like all sorts of different metal. I like super heavy death metal, but I also love melodic, traditional stuff. So I kind of go across the board. So whatever I like, we've tried to work with over the years. And luckily enough, we kind of run the gamut. And I think one thing we never did was we never tried to be too heavy into one specific scene because we didn't want to be known as the label that only signs this kind of band or only signs that kind of band. And I think whenever we got into a situation where we had a lot of specific style, we wanted to kind of go in a different direction as much as we could. And also, I think we're always trying to figure out what's the next most exciting thing coming up because we like to be kind of on the ground floor of that stuff. And we've been, over the years, really lucky that, finding that sort of stuff and getting into that as well.
Yes, it's like a bit seeing, to be able to look the future, as you said, that what's coming up. And also, I remember that in the book you said that talking about these punks and everything, you founded these death records to give the chance also this different style of bands.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was because at that time in the 80s, punk bands could not be on a label that had metal in the name. Yeah. So, but I wanted to work with them, and they wanted to work with us. It's like, well, we'll just start another label with another name, and no one will know until they did know.
That's great. Also, your mother's role in all this was very important, and I'm sure that she didn't quite understand what you were doing, but she gave you the full support.
Yeah, she was definitely not a fan of that music style necessarily, but she was really good in letting me kind of do the things that I needed to do, which. I wasn't sure she would do that because, education was really important to her, and she always kind of said that's, the most important thing is to get a really good education. So, when I was going to take some time off from college to see where this label thing goes, that was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had because I was really nervous because I wasn't sure what she was going to say about that, but she was totally like, no, that's fine. It seems like, you're doing, and if you think this is the way to go, then let's try it. So I was like, thank goodness.
Great heart. Yes. Great heart of your mom. That's for sure. Listen, I'm part of Alpha Omega Management, and as Bill Metoyer is part of our team too, I just have to ask about him and his contribution to the history of Metal Blade. You also mentioned him several times in the book.
Yeah, Bill was a humongous important part of the early days of Metal Blade because the one thing that I didn't have was any money when I started this, and to enable to us to obviously make something to put out, you had to record something. And when you don't have any money, and studios back in that day were very, very expensive, it was difficult to make that happen. And also, there weren't a lot of engineers that understood how metal was. So meeting Bill, he was a guy who was an engineer who loved heavy metal, who had a great connection at a really great recording studio. This was perfect for us, because we were able to do a lot of recordings there that we never would have been able to do anywhere else, that whether it be Armored Saint or Bitch or Slayer or so many Trouble, so many bands that Bill was involved with, and that was a humongous, a very important factor in the early days of Metal Blade. I mean, Bill and I worked together on so many records back in the day that his contribution was massive, because it really wasn't for him. It would have been much more difficult for us to be able to put any records out and make them sound good, because, again, trying to find an engineer back then who understood and knew metal was just didn't exist. So Bill was really, really important.
Oh, great. On those years back then, you were the pioneers.
I think so.
Yes,
we were early on.
Yes. And you wrote in the book, it's unrealistic to hope that you are going to hit the board with every dart you throw. That's not going to happen, but I'm a firm believer in the idea that to be successful, you've got to keep throwing the darts.
Absolutely. Obviously we had some time at Warner Brothers, which we talked about in the book, and Mo Austin, who's one of the most legendary record industry guys of all time, he once told me, and I always remember this because this really did kind of make sense to me and really helped out. He said, "You're never hurt by making a good record. Whether it sells or not doesn't matter, but if you put out and make a good record, it really doesn't matter how successful it is, on the financial front. If it's a good record, it's a good record. It's not going to ever hurt you." So I think that made me feel, okay, good, because sometimes you get so caught up, and I'm just a music fan and a metal fan, and of course I want everything we do to be successful for us and the bands, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen all the time at all. In fact, it's more the rarity that it doesn't. So that piece of advice, fairly early on was really valuable to me, where I didn't fear, like, okay, well then in that case, let's just go full bore and sign what we want to sign and do what we want to do, and not worry about, all the other stuff as much.
Yes, and this philosophy works also in all of the fields of life, I think.
Yes. I agree.
Yes. To your opinion, where is the record business going? In the book, you are talking about the physical, that it's going from the physical to streaming business, and then that by 2020, the streaming business will be 10 times its current size. So, what are your ideas? Because I'm sure you know much more behind the scenes what's going to happen.
Well, it's very interesting, because I think that those statements are still correct, and you're seeing it in the music business where the streaming stuff is moving at a much faster pace than even I ever thought it was going to be, and it's real money for the labels, and certainly for the artists, as long as the labels pay the artists what they should, which they need to. If they aren't, but it's an interesting time right now, because you still have vinyl doing very well and very strong, and that shows no signs of going away anytime soon. Physical CDs, while they are getting less and less, I don't also think those are going to go away anytime soon. I think they're going to be a smaller, finite amount, similar to where vinyl is at. And then you have the digital downloads, which definitely are going away. And then the streaming stuff, which is obviously where just not only music, but this is where people are consuming their entertainment, whether it's movies, TV shows, content, anything. It's all through these streaming sites, and that's clearly where things are moving in a very fast direction. And we just see every single day. The next day we get more money from streaming than we got the day before, and it's getting it's getting bigger and bigger as it goes on. So, but it's a good time now, because however you want to consume music, whether that's via vinyl, via CD, or via streaming, or even the downloads, you can do that right now. And I think that that's going to be the case for the next couple of years. Certainly, these other formats will get less, and streaming is going to become the dominant one. If it's not, it may all be ready. It's certainly the dominant one in all the other genres of music. Not quite yet in ours, but it may be that by the end of the year. We'll see where it goes. But it's interesting times. But I like the streaming model, because for $10 a month, 20 years ago, if I had $10, I could buy one record.
Yeah.
Now for $10, I can listen to pretty much any song I want to, pretty much wherever I want to.
That's true, and it's the fact that we have to, learn to live. Even though I know that there are several opinions out there, but I see it very good one because it spread music wider, and as you said, you can hear more than only one vinyl. But the fans out, they shouldn't forget to go to the live shows to support their idols.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, we don't see any sign of that slowing down either. I mean, it seems like that's becoming, the live music experience, because music is so readily available everywhere, and people don't necessarily have to pay for it or are paying less for it.
Yeah.
It certainly makes the live situation a lot easier for people to attend. And all these festivals and tours doing so well, especially in the metal world right now, it's really truly amazing.
Yeah. For the Sake of Heaviness, the history of Metal Plate Records comes out on August 29th. What will happen the day after?
Hopefully people will enjoy reading the book.
I did.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, and then, we've got some promotional stuff sorted out over here in the U.S. for that, and some stuff happening in Europe, so there'll be a lot of things surrounding the book over the next few months as time goes on. I think sometime next year there'll be an audio book as well. So
great.
If you want to hear me and somebody else that has a decent voice read part of the book, you'll be able to do that as well.
That's great. And with the exclusive box set, besides the book, there is also a music cassette including great songs from the Metal Plate history. The choice to put them on a handwritten cassette is brilliant, and it tells a lot of your old school passion. Is that so?
Yeah, thank you. I have to give our team credit for that because cassettes for some bizarre reason are kind of being cool again. I'm not sure why, but I love the fact that that's happening. So thinking about the what to put together as part of the box for the book bundle. Somebody mentioned what about doing a cassette? I mean, it's kind of perfect because so much of the book talks about those early days, and kind of doing a cassette like that would be a lot of fun. So yeah. So far, the reaction's been really good, which I like, and I definitely have to thank the Metal Blade staff for that one. That's a really great and cool idea.
Yeah, it means that you really are a family because they know you.
Oh yes, absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
And listen, now a classic question, and to be honest, this one comes from my 12-year daughter. If you would find yourself stuck in a desert island for a month, which 5 albums or things you would like to take with you?
Okay, let's see. I'll take 3 albums. I'll take Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast.
Okay.
Rainbow Rising, and Black Sabbath, Sabotage.
Yes.
I would have to take with me some sort of a video device so I could watch some hockey games on there as well.
Of course. Hoping there is antenna as well.
Yeah, and probably something to keep me occupied. So I don't know, like a soccer ball or a tennis racket and a tennis ball. I don't know, something to just run around and do something stupid with. So.
Thanks. My daughter will be happy to hear this reply. Thanks. And now, as time is flying, so what is your message to all those bands out there whose dream is to become somebody and who would want to be signed by Metal Blade?
Well, I think first and foremost, no matter if you're in a band or you just want to be in the industry or whatever it is, the most important thing is you have to truly, really love the music. Because it's not an easy industry by any means, on any level. But if you really, truly do love the music, you'll find a way to make it work. But that has to be your number one motivation to do that.
Yes.
And if you do have that love for it, then you'll be successful whatever your endeavor is, because that's the true most important thing about it. And then go on your path as you go on your path, but always make it about the love of the music. And that way, anything that is difficult or a problem or a roadblock, or you fall off the horse and you gotta get back on it, whatever that is, just remember that you're doing this for the love of the music, and that'll make that journey a lot easier and a lot more successful, I think.
Yes, so with passion and without too many compromises.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Brian, you have no idea how pleasant it was talking with you, and I do hope that we will have a chance to talk another time. I'm sure that you are going to have a very busy summer, so I wish you all the best, and also for the release of the book. And I do hope that all the metalheads read it, because it's so, I mean, it's a jewelry.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you for all the support. We really appreciate it.
I will. And so take care and enjoy your summer and ice hockey.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. You too. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye, Brian. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Brian, bye.
Bye-bye.
Brian, bye.
Bye-bye.
Brian, bye.